Well, we were talking about the threat to pubs earlier, but it's not just our boozers at risk, it's shops too. A new report paints a bleak picture for our high streets. Figures show that almost a third of shops in the East Midlands will close in the next 5 years. Nationally, that could mean the loss of a staggering 316,000 jobs. Meanwhile, online shopping is expected to increase from 13% to 22%. So how does it feel for those struggling on our high streets? Des Coleman's been to Hinckley in Leicestershire to find out.
The High Street, once the hub of the community, according to statistics, is now a dying entity. I'm at Mary's Sweet Emporium in Hinckley to find out her thoughts.
Just get one.
Oh, lovely.
What else do shops need to do then in order to encourage more business?
They need to be unique, they need to be independent like ourselves. Lots and lots of chains have pulled out. We also need to have an online presence as well, which is something that we're currently setting up. So all those things, the diversity, the uniqueness is an important thing.
What can the politicians or the council do to help?
We really need a drop in the rates. We have at the moment something called Hinckley Bid, which we have to pay £1 a day to. We don't actually see very much for that, and that's like £360 a year that we have to pay. We don't get any choice. It would be great if there was a lot more free car parking, so that's always a big issue. Because if you go to somewhere like Tesco's, they have free parking, whereas here, it's an additional cost.
Becky, you're taking over in literally a week's time.
Yes, I am.
What are your thoughts on the future?
I think a young, vibrant energy that's been in the business for 14 years has learned some kind of knowledge of the produce. It's having that one-to-one with customers, and I think that I'm going to be looking into new things, tweaking the business for organic, more local produce, and also using email and internet. I'm not going to be doing internet deliveries, but just tweaking the business a little bit. And I think relying on regular customers that come back every year, and young people as well, having a younger person in here.
So wouldn't you say that this is just a natural change, the order of things?
It's a natural change, but it needn't be if planning was careful to locate large superstores where it didn't directly affect an infrastructure. Because if you get a shop like this one we come to, and it doesn't really matter if you pay a few pence more, because you get the time of day, you get personal service, you get an opinion. You don't get just somebody at a checkout doing their job and moving you on to the next one as quickly as you can.
What do you think the politicians and the councils can do?
Well, I think shops like this one should be given a helping hand. You know, that people come in here regularly, there's always a buzz about it. Mary and her staff put a lot of time and effort into making the shop attractive, and they're lovely people, and they make you want to come in, and people like that should be given a helping hand in some way.
Thank you very much.
Well, joining us is Professor Joshua Bamfield from the Centre for Retail Research, who produced that report. Joshua, you found that the East Midlands would be one of the worst affected areas. Why?
I think that there's a problem of lack of consumer spending, which relates to the problems of the economy, and it does have a very large number of smaller shops which are unprofitable or marginally profitable.
We have more of those here than in other areas, for example.
Than in areas, let's say, like the southeast of England, which is which will have a fall, but not such a fall.
Okay.
And obviously there are big changes going on in the retail environment. You know, Derby v Nottingham v Leicester and so on has a big impact. And in places in the smaller towns, for example, we see quite a problem with neighbourhood shops, which probably will decline at a faster rate than.
So what do you want
high
politicians
street.
like the two you've got in front of you now to do to help?
Well, I think there are several things. Everybody agrees that the high street and retailing is worth saving. It's a matter of, I think, partly looking at the way in which things are planned. But our view is that, first of all, there's a problem with business rates and occupancy costs, which occupancy costs are rising
Which the
too
shopkeepers
fast.
actually alluded to in our film there, Nigel. What can be done to help shops?
Well, I think we all want to see the thriving high streets. I've got 3 market towns in my constituency, which have all
We
got
all want to see
varying
them,
degrees
but
of
we're
problem.
not seeing them, Nigel. That's the truth of it, isn't it?
I think that we have to accept the fact that people are changing how they shop. They want to shop online, they want to shop out of town. I think we need to make the high street a destination again. We need to bring new services and new things to attract people in. I mean, in one of my towns, Hena, there's a new studio school opening in the town centre, which should bring some footfall back.
But if you charge people a lot to park in town centres like in Hena, then they're not going to come in, are they?
No, it has to be.
So surely there's something you could do about that?
I mean, that's the local councils now have much more power to choose these things. You know, they're going to have their own business rates. They can choose how they want to vary these schemes. So I think we try and get local solutions to these things, but we have to find a new need for high streets that trap people in. I don't think we can go back to what we used to
Toby, what would you do? What would Labour do?
Well, I mean, I think that one of the central points that there's a lot that councils can do, but the fact is that councils are facing massive financial problems, and actually car parking is one of the few revenue sources that they actually have control over.
To be fair,
over.
Labour didn't do a lot when they were in power to help the high street.
Well, I mean, I would
Woolworths
disagree
went
with that.
under.
I think the most important thing you can do to help the high street is to support people to have more money in their pockets. What we're seeing at the moment is the longest recession in our history, the slowest recovery that we've ever had. We're now 5 years basically into a recession with very little growth. We said 3 years ago that if you choke off the recovery, then what you'll see is a long period of stagnation. That's precisely what we're seeing.
Well, it's a gloomy picture, but can it actually get any better, Joshua?
Well, I think it can get any better, but what we're arguing is that local authorities and retailers need to make very, very cold, strategic decisions over a longer term. One is car parking. We asked 1,000 consumers about who no longer shop so much in the high street, and car parking and car congestion issues come in the top three of 70% of those. So it's a really important problem that people want to shop in the high street, but they can't get there. The second problem is business rates.
Yes.
And a place like Grimsby, which I know is not, in this area, but the research in Grimsby shows that people in the retailers in the town centre pay £12.5 million every year in business rates. The retailers outside the town spend only pay only £3.5 million. And if you're going to be a retailer, you know, where do you want to go? It's killing you.
Yeah.
If you want lots and lots of stores in the high street to remain, I think you've got to reduce the cost of running those businesses.
What's the government going to do about that?
I mean, we have, of course, extended the business rate relief for small businesses, and then I get that automatically rather than having to claim for it. So there has been some help there in difficult times. And I think you're right, the business rate system should be based on real current market values rather than things that were assumed when the scheme was designed quite a long while ago. So there is some work to be done there. But, you know, in a time of no revenue, it's a bit hard to say, well, we can give away business rates. We have to find that money from business somewhere else or from individuals who then have less to spend. So there are no easy magic solutions here. We have to find ways of having imaginative, creative, small businesses who provide a service and a local thing that will attract people.
You also mentioned, didn't you, the fact that this is probably it's like a natural process that we can't go backwards. Is this what's happening because we don't shop on the high street anymore?
Well,
you know, we've changed the way we shop.
Yeah, I think
can we ever go back to having high
streets
as they were?
There's a little bit of that. I think that we recognise that everyone complains about the supermarkets, but lots of us tend to use them. At the same time, lots of us shop online. So that there is an extent to which we're changing habits, and there isn't that much. Maybe we have to accept that as a new normal. But there is actually also.
But surely we can't accept all the job losses that will come with the collapse of the high street, which is what Joshua was telling us in his report, Nigel Mills.
No, absolutely. But I mean, there is some good news.
I've
got a shop in Ripley where a lady started doing interior design in a garage and grew the business, and now opened a shop on the high street. So it's not all of a bad trend now. We actually have a thriving small business growing up. So absolutely, we don't want to lose those jobs. But it's about finding local solutions to local things. What works in Chesterfield won't work in Heno. We
certainly need to find some solutions. Professor Joshua Banfield, thanks very much indeed for joining us in the studio.